Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Crowd Chatter podcast. Today is going to be the NFC South. I just did the AFC. Now we're moving on to the NFC. Got two other NFL ones I want to do today, and then I'll do the West next week. Um, so let's get started with the first team here on the list, which is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this team is kind of in the same situation as both Houston and Jacksonville, which I talked about in the last video. They're both kind of they're really more in a rebuilding phase. They have some work to do. Um, at quarterback, they have Marcus Mariota, or they signed Marcus Mariota as their quarterback. They brought back They brought back Cordell Patterson, who kind of was like a middle guy of like running back, wide receiver. Don't know which position I'm gonna play. I'm just gonna play both. I'm gonna be the wide back like Debo Samuel. And then you got Damian Williams, Anthony Firkser re-signed with the Falcons, and then they traded for Brian Edwards. Auden Tate signed with them. They have some solid players. They have some solid pieces, but this team is still a work in progress, especially the defensive end of the football. The defensive end needs a ton of work, as that defense is really a strugglesome category, and really the offense too is a bit of a struggle. And this year will be really evident with the fact that they won't have Calvin Ridley, as he got suspended for the entire season for gambling on his own team. Calvin Ridley, moron. Um, but this is still a team that also has Kyle Pitts at tight end, so they'll be able to put up points. In the first round, they also drafted Drake London with the number 8 pick. Good wide receiver at USC. With their second pick, they actually got a good defensive end from Penn State, and Arnold Ebiketie. Do like him. They were able to draft Troy Anderson, a linebacker from Montana State, late in the second round. And then they got their other quarterback in Desmond Ritter, QB out of Cincinnati. He'll be competing with Marcus Mariota this year for the starting job. We'll see if Desmond Ritter ends up getting the starting job. I think it'll probably be Mariota. But it's going to be one of those two replacing Matt Ryan this year. Of course, as the Falcons trade away Matt Ryan to the Indy Colts. And they also drafted D'Angelo Malone, another edge rusher from Western Kentucky. And then I really want to see how this guy makes an impact. But Tyler Algier, running back from BYU, really had a great season at BYU this past year. Good running back too, and he seems like he's looking maybe like he's gonna fill the running back role at Atlanta. We'll see how they factor in Cordell Patterson. I'm sure he'll be in the mix somewhere, either at wide receiver or at running back. But Tyler Algier is a good running back and a good draft pick late for the Atlanta Falcons. And then you can see two other picks on there, a Georgia tight end and a Georgia guard. So two homer picks there for the Atlanta Falcons. But overall, solid team for Atlanta. Um, I think this Atlanta team is probably going to have a average year. Um, we'll see though. I don't think there'll be anything special. They certainly won't be making the playoffs. I can tell you that. I can tell you they're not making the playoffs whatsoever. So we'll move on to the next team on here, which is the Carolina Panthers. And of course, they made a big move this offseason as they went ahead and made their trade for Baker Mayfield, getting him for a conditional fifth round pick in 2024. I think that is an absolute steal for the Panthers. I know a lot of people, nobody really likes Baker Mayfield, and everyone says he's a terrible QB and he's a major league bust as the number one overall pick. I'll tell you this. Is Baker Mayfield lived up to maybe number one overall hype? No. But this is the same guy that also led the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs in 2020. So, I mean, he definitely was not great last year, but to say that he's a terrible QB is ridiculous. This is not a bad quarterback. Will I say he's a number one overall worthy guy? No, but this is still a decent QB. And changing scenery here, now he goes into Carolina and has won the starting job over fellow number 3 overall pick, Sam Darnold. What a miserable failure that ended up being for the Jets, and then the trade by the Panthers trying to get him. And now they have Baker Mayfield. Good quarterback. Really disappointed that he went to the Panthers because I thought the Seahawks would get him, but never did. They also signed Deonta Foreman. DJ Moore signed an extension with them. Ian Thomas, good good tight end. Matt Ioannidis is a solid player. Corey Littleton, Dante Jackson's good. They also signed Xavier Woods. That's a good signing for the Panthers. And of course, they already had. They traded for Stephon Gilmore last year, and they also got themselves, what was it, C.J. Henderson, I believe. They traded for him from the Jacksonville Jaguars. But that Panther defense last year was very good. And the minute that Christian McCaffrey got hurt, their entire team just pretty much fell off a cliff. And obviously, that was because they just had no ability. Because when McCaffrey got hurt, they didn't really have the offense anymore. Because they're really Christian McCaffrey or bust. And Carolina is really trying to rebuild that their offense as now they bring in Baker Mayfield. They still have DJ Moore as their number one receiver. He's a decent receiver. And then in the draft, the number 6 pick, they got one of the top offensive linemen in Akeem Ekwonu. Hometown kid here, as he's from NC State. They need offensive line, and getting a guy like Akeem Ekwonu is a very good draft pick for the Carolina Panthers. And with all the quarterbacks just free falling in the draft, the Panthers decide, well, let's trade up and make a play for one of our own. As they went and made a play for Matt Corral, quarterback out of Ole Miss. So now they have a quarterback room with Baker Mayfield, Matt Corral, and Sam Darnold. What they're going to do with all 3 of them, I don't really know. Obviously, Baker Mayfield could easily be out the door if he does not perform admirably this year. And for Sam Darnold, I think his tenure is already long over, and it's just a matter of time before they can finally get rid of his butt and send him out the door. But Matt Corral, good quarterback. We'll see what Carolina decides to do with him, but definitely I think more of like, another insurance option for Carolina. They're looking for a quarterback to, be the guy now that Cam Newton's gone. They just haven't found that yet. And, here's the trade for Baker Mayfield, hoping, hey, maybe he turns out to blossom for us and he ends up being good. And if it doesn't work, well, we've already determined that Sam Darnold isn't going to make it work. So we'll see if Matt Corral can. And then they also drafted Brandon Smith, linebacker from Penn State, along with a few others. So this was really their draft was really just their first round pick, and they didn't have anything else until they traded into the third to get Matt Corral. But this Carolina team definitely has some holes. And last year they had a good start, and then when McCaffrey got hurt, everything fell apart. But for Carolina, their team is very dependent on Christian McCaffrey. If McCaffrey stays healthy, then this team is in business, and this team certainly can play well. Because Baker Mayfield, he's not going to need to carry that offense if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy all year. But if McCaffrey can't stay healthy and you have to bring in Chubba Hubba, as I like to call him, I know his name's actually Chubba Hubbard, but I like calling him Chubba Hubba. But having to bring in Chubba Hubbard or bring in, the other guy who's there. It's not really Freeman. Deonta Foreman. Yeah. So they have to bring in one of those 2 guys or at least do a split between those 2 to without McCaffrey, I think it's going to be another long year for Carolina, and they could end up being the last team in this conference if McCaffrey doesn't stay healthy. So I think really their entire offense depends on whether or not Christian McCaffrey stays healthy all year long. And now, next team up after the Carolina Panthers, we have what I think is really an underrated team this year, and that's the New Orleans Saints. Now, that might seem a little weird to say that, as the Saints are probably, many people believe, still going to be a really good team. But this New Orleans team is very good. Um, and so I really think that New Orleans is going to have a solid year. Stupid videos. But this New Orleans team, I really believe that they're going to do really well this year. This is a good team. They got they got really good draft picks as well, which was a huge which was huge for them. Well, I think they really needed they got in a wide receiver, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So because here's their signings this year is they brought back Jameis Winston. He's a solid QB. I don't think a lot of people love him, but this is still a solid quarterback. This is a guy. We obviously he makes a lot of questionable decisions as he's thrown it all over the place to his own guys and the other team's guys. He's accurate, just sometimes not to the right people. But obviously, I'm referring to that 30 touchdown, 30 pick season. But Winston is a good QB. He obviously has he obviously is athletic. He can move. He's a mobile QB, and he has a decent arm. So I think he's a serviceable quarterback for New Orleans, and of course they brought in Andy Dalton to be a reserve to him. They got Malcolm Brown as another running back just to bolster that running back room with a lot of questions, since there's a lot of questions still around Alvin Kamara and whether or not he'll get a suspension or not with all the stuff about the Pro Bowl. And then at wide receiver, you have Jarvis Landry, who is another good wide receiver, and also they brought back Traquan Smith. They bring in Jarvis Landry, who's a good wide receiver. He's coming over from the Cleveland Browns. Brought in Nick Martin, signed Taco Charlton. That's a good defensive end out of actually Michigan. Graduated from U of M. But Taco Charlton, good defensive end. He'll be a good depth piece. Contavious Street. PJ Williams they signed on. And then the two big signings here, Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May, both coming in as the brand new safeties. They lost both of their safeties to free agency, so they bring in a new duo of Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May. And that defense already for the Saints is very good. And so you bring in those two guys to be in the back of that as the back guys there. Also bring in Daniel Sorensen. That's unbelievably good in the back there. So I really love those two signings for New Orleans. And then you look at their draft class here, which starts with another wide receiver, Chris Olave. So now you think of the wide receivers they have. I don't care about Michael Thomas, but if he ends up finally getting healthy and he stays healthy, then you're going to have a wide receiving core that includes Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Olave. That is a nasty trio of wide receivers. Not to mention, you already will have. It's obviously it's still a question, but as of right now, they still have Alvin Kamara. So you have that wide receiving trio with Alvin Kamara. You got a very good looking offense with a very good defense. I really think a lot of people are underestimating New Orleans this year. And then they had another first round pick after they made that trade with the Eagles where they swapped a bunch of draft picks. And in that trade, they got the 19th pick, which was for Trevor Penning, a good tackle out of northern Iowa. So they got themselves a good offensive lineman as well. And in the second round, they drafted another corner and Alante Taylor out of Tennessee. They also got DeMarco Jackson and Jordan Jackson, linebackers, and a linebacker and defensive tackle out of Appalachian State and Air Force, respectively. But, really, I think this New Orleans team's going to be good. And while I don't think Atlanta and Carolina are probably going to have, that great of years, New Orleans is certainly going to be really good this year. And I think this is a playoff team, and it has some serious potential if it lives up to. I think it has serious potential with the resources that it has and the players and the personnel for New Orleans. I think this team can have a very, very good season. And really, this is their main obstacle. And here's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're not going to really have much of a draft class, but I'll still go over it anyway. Tampa Bay, of course, was really under a lot of questions when they heard that, when it was said that when it was said that Tom Brady would retire. Many people wondered, what's Tampa Bay gonna do then? What are they gonna do without Tom Brady? Well, he's coming back out of retirement anyway. You announced he'd retire. 40 days later, you decide, you know what? I'm not gonna retire. I'm gonna come back. So Tom Brady still remains with Tampa Bay. Of course, they did not get Rob Gronkowski back. He actually retired. Uh, but Blaine Gabbert also re-signs with them. They got Giovanni Bernard and Leonard Fournette back, both re-signing. Bernard's not going to do anything, but Leonard Fournette, good, decent running back. Russell Gage and Chris Godwin both would sign with the team, along with Julio Jones and Rashad Perryman. So now, when you really think of this receiving core that now Tampa Bay has put together, they have a receiving core that includes, mind you, this is what their receiving core is. They will have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Russell Gage, and Rashad Perryman. Now, Perryman actually was decent for Tampa last year, actually not even making the Lions roster, which was bad. But he was actually decent for Tampa Bay last year. So that's a good depth piece, and then Russell Gage, that's a decent wide receiver, coming from the Atlanta Falcons, and then of course you sign Julio Jones. That's a devastating signing. Kyle Rudolph comes in at tight end, probably to give him some depth and also kind of replace the Rob Gronkowski hole. You get Shaq Mason in a trade, who's a big time offensive lineman. He was a guard for a while with Tom Brady over in New England. So I think that's a steal right there. Ryan Jensen, good center, get to re-sign him. And then they re-signed Carlton Davis, brought in Akeem Hicks, and signed Keanu Neal and Logan Ryan. So I mean, this team is still going to be very good. I think this team was a lock for the playoffs. Tampa Bay should very much be in the playoff discussion and, well, in my opinion, honestly, make it. And then you got second round pick, the first pick of the second round. They got Logan Hall, defensive end out of Houston, who actually is what was it? There was he was when he was born. I think Tom Brady was. There was some stat that I saw that like when Logan Hall was born, when Tampa Bay's latest draft pick, Logan Hall, when he was born, Tom Brady I think had just been like drafted by a Tampa Bay or something crazy or by New England, not Tampa Bay. He had just been drafted or was like first or second year in the NFL or something like that. It's crazy. It just goes to show how old Brady is and is still at the top of his game. It's insane. And then also in the second round, they got Luke Godeke, a guard out of Central Michigan. Good player there. And then you got Richard White, a running back at Arizona State. Many people thought that maybe he will factor into the offense a little bit. They also got Cade Oten, punter out of Georgia, and, then there's the rest. But this is a Tampa team that, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the draft picks are. They still have Tom Brady. They have the loaded receiving core. They have Leonard Fournette. They have some solid running backs. They have a decent tight end room, and they got a defense still that is honestly top of the line. So this is going to be a very good year, I think, for Tampa Bay. I think it's between them and the Saints for this division. I mean, I think it's the same thing as the AFC South. It's either in the AFC South, it's either the Titans or the Colts. In this division, it's either the Saints or the Bucks. So we'll see which one gets it, but both of these teams are very good. Um, I think Tampa might have the edge, but the Saints always seem to know how to beat Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. So we'll see we'll see if that actually changes this year. But this Tampa team is obviously lethal, and so is New Orleans. So we'll see how that all goes. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tonight will be we'll also have we'll be recording week 1 picks for college football tonight. Got the original 20 games again. It'll be the same thing as last year mostly, except our shockers of the week might be a little bit different. But that's all I got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's all I got for this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Until next time, adios, everyone.